It is Monday, May 12th at 6:01 PM, and I declare this council meeting of the municipality of Nairn and Hyman open for business. And our first event, or our first thing on our list is swearing in our new council member Karen Richter. And yeah, let's do that. Would you want to stand up?
I'll stand up.
So we just need to fill in your name here. And it's this is Counselor. Do I need to be here?
Makes you feel more important.
Yeah. This is the township. There. Oh, sorry.
That's right over the picture.
Okay, so then, once you sign it, yeah, you would just read up here.
I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or any improper manner. I will disclose my pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III. And I make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously, believing it to be true and knowing that it is the same force and effect as if made under oath.
And I will sign. We don't have to borrow your pen.
Your pen.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you all very much.
It's a congratulations.
Yes, it is. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
That's my turn. Congratulations, Karen. That's exciting. This doesn't happen every day. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Excellent. I, Trevor McVeigh, declare a pecuniary interest in item 12A on May 12, 2025. I am making this declaration because he is a volunteer firefighter. I confirm that I will not vote on the matter. I will not take part in discussion on any question in respect to the matter. I will not attempt in any way before, during, or after the meeting to influence the voting on any such question. I, Amy Macy, declare a pecuniary interest in item 12A. On May 12, 2025, I am making this declaration because I serve on the fire department. I confirm that I will not vote on the matter. I will not take part in discussion on any question in respect to the matter. I will not attempt in any way, whether before, during, or after the meeting, to influence the voting on any such question. I, Wayne Austin, declare a pecuniary interest with, item 7J and also 12A for the same reasons on May 12th, 2025.
Oh, I'm sorry.
On May 12th, 2025, I am making this declaration because a report from a family member. I confirm that I will not vote on this matter. I will not take part in discussion on any question in respect to the matter. I will not attempt in any way, whether before, during, or after the meeting, to influence the voting on any such question. So that was both of those.
Okay.
And then we have Tiffany Kacheko from KPMG to give us our financial statement report. Welcome. Thank you for coming.
Good to go now?
Yep.
Okay. Good. Well, apologies, a lot of numbers and it's your first meeting, so if any questions, please let me know. So we're going over the 2024 financial statements. I know you have later on your agenda, your 2025 budget that you're going to go through. So quite fitting between the two to have a bit of a conversation about. And as always, please ask any questions that you might have. So the presentation that Belinda has up there and that you would have had in your presentation or in your council package is just a combination audit planning and findings report. So goes over the planning considerations and we'll go over the draft financial statements, which will be finalized upon council's approval, and then we'll be able to get the financial information returned with the ministry. So on to page 4. Page 4 is just the summary of all of the kind of everything you wanted to know about the planning considerations for the audit. So of course, things like materiality, how do we calculate that in the financial statements, and then any risks that would be identified in the audit. I always give a reminder when I'm doing these presentations that the risks that you're seeing in an audit like the Township of Narren are very general risks that exist in every audit. This isn't an overly complex, I would say, township, or we don't have, very complex revenue streams. You get taxation revenue, you get government grants, you have some user fees, those types of things. So when you do see some of the risks identified, please know that's nothing specific to your operations. That's just life of an audit and the things that we need to consider when we're going through the work. So if we go 2 slides from here, that'll be the materiality calculation. So most times I'll get a question to say, well, how do you calculate materiality and what do you use it for in the audit? So we usually calculate it based on whomever is using your statements, what they would be most interested in. So you're talking about the budget today, and if anybody, I'm sure, in the township comes to talk to you, what are they talking about? What's the budget? Why are my taxes going up what they are? Those standard kind of discussions. So as a result, that's why we tend to use operating expenses as a materiality benchmark, because that is what everybody cares about when they look at your financial statements. The auditing standards allow us to go in a range of between 0.5% and 3%. You can see we're at about 2.9% of your total expenses in the current year. We don't include any of your spending on capital in that number. This is just purely operating expenses. The reason we don't include capital is it goes up and down every year. Depends on what you get for your grant funding and things like that. So we always want to make sure that materiality doesn't turn into a yo-yo, up 1 year, down another year, because that can cause us issues as an audit. We like to keep it pretty consistent. On the next page is one standard risk in the audit. So it's that management override of controls risk that does create a fraud risk in every audit that we complete. And what do we have to do to address this? Well, that's just on the next page. You might remember me saying in past years, we have to look at unique combinations of journal entries that could end up having an impact to manipulate your surplus or deficit. So I always kind of give the explanation of, well, why would somebody want to do that? So we'll use a scenario, Belinda has been saying all year, oh, we're surplusing to X number of dollars in the year. This is fantastic. We've been doing really well for the township. And then, at the end of the year, it's like, oh, maybe not so much of a surplus. But so when you get, when we've seen, these types of management override of controls risks happening in an audit, it's those type of scenarios where we're not talking here about somebody taking township assets. What we're effectively talking is somebody booking a journal entry in a system where there's no basis for doing so. And so we need to design audit procedures to say, okay, well, what could you do? And how do we look at that? So we usually tend to focus on things like revenue recognition in your deferred revenue. So things like gas tax, things like NORDS, things like OSIP, you don't have to spend every year. So you can move them from period to period, depending on when you spend the money. So that tends to be the areas that we look into say, if you recorded $300,000 of NORDS funding, did you actually spend it? Did it make sense that you recorded the revenue? To always make sure that everything is matched appropriately. Nothing we need to bring to council's attention. Everything had a reasonable business purpose and good supporting documentation for it. The next page is just some of the inquiries. So I know sometimes that I'll go through these inquiries with boards or councils and they'll say, well, wait a minute, I really wish we wouldn't be doing this, as part of the full council meeting. there's just some required inquiries for us to close the loop in our audit work. We've already done all of these inquiries with Belinda at the start of the audit. And it's just to make sure that there isn't anything that you all might be aware of in your roles that could impact the audit that we should be aware of as auditors. So if there has been any kind of, you know, communicated instances of non-compliance with laws or regulations or things like that. And the other thing that we always like to take a look at, and it's not as big in the municipal world, in case you were reading this and thinking, what are you asking this question? But related parties, if you listen to the news, you know, one of the ways that companies can get themselves into trouble in the for-profit world is they set up this little subsidiary on the side that ultimately they control, and magically it holds all the debt somehow. And they keep it on the side and they don't bring it into their financial results, and then lo and behold, the company crumbles and goes bankrupt because all of a sudden the debt that was here actually should have been recorded in the statements. This is not the municipal world. You can't do anything without the province knowing what you're doing. So in case you were wondering, well, why are some of these questions here? They're just standard audit inquiries. So there wasn't anything that we were concerned with when we went through our inquiries with Belinda, but I just wanted to make sure that you were all aware that these are some of the questions that we would go through and complete. The next page is just the key milestones. So we were here, I think it was back end of February, beginning of March to do the year-end audit and to get everything wrapped up. And we're here today presenting the statements. So pending council's approval, we'll be in a position to issue them in final today. The next page is just on independence and a bit of a summary on the audit. Just a reminder, you know, these are I always say this is everything you wanted to know about the audit. They're for the year-end wrap up. So we don't have any going concern considerations. So that would mean that you would be, you know, worried about the township being able to continue for a 12-month period while having your 2025 budget on the agenda today usually gives us very good feeling that you're going to be continuing for the next 12 months. We did have a new accounting standard change in the year, but it was just one new standard, so I'll walk you all through that. And then there was just some independence considerations that we need to make sure you're all aware of. So if we go on to the next slide. So as of the date that we wrote this report, which was in April, there were still a few things to wrap up. We did get the rep letter back from Belinda on Friday, so that's all done. So we literally now just need to go over this meeting and have council give the thumbs up to the statements today, and then we'll be able to get the statements sent over to Belinda tomorrow morning. On the next page, this is the new standard. So the new standard relates to revenues outside of government grants and taxation revenues. So the general crux of this new standard effectively is there's certain revenue streams that the town has that in the past tended to default to the cash basis of accounting, where the township has continuing actions, and in the accounting world, we call that continuing performance obligations to deliver upon to actually earn that revenue. So the idea is trying to match the effort that township employees have to make with the revenue streams and the revenue recognition. So the biggest area that we see this impacting the various municipalities is building permits. And the reason for that is they tend to default to the cash basis in most times. Somebody comes in, they want a building permit, they give you cash, they get it. But the township employees have actions and tasks that they need to do from that building permit's inception to its closure. And that's the crux of the new standard. Whereas in the past, you would have said, record the revenue on day number 1. It's actually more of an idea of we need to figure out what discrete tasks does the township have to do over the life of the building permit. And then poor Belinda had to go through and say, okay, well, what was outstanding at December, and you know, which ones still have some continuing involvement that the township needs to worry about. So this is the new standard in a nutshell. You know, it did require obviously a bit more discussion, a bit of Belinda's time to work through this, but that was the adoption of the new standard. I'll show you in the financial statements too, where we have the disclosure for that new standard. On the next slide, this is just, we have a few slides just for our standard communications. So the statements have all of the required note disclosures, and the adoption of the new accounting pronouncements are all included in the note disclosures, as well. No concerns that we have. I always, I do a fair number of municipal audits, so always do tend to do a cross-reference between all the statements to make sure we're not missing any disclosures, anything like that. I think on to the next page are some of the more specific topics. So we would have to bring to your attention as those governing the organization, if there was anything that caused us any grief in completing the audit. So, you know, if there were confirmations that we weren't able to send out, if there was concerns about management, and nothing that we need to bring to your attention here. And then the final kind of wrap up items would be these specific topics. So these would be the bigger, I always call these the bigger deals in the audit. If there's anything that we needed to bring to your attention with respect to the performance of our procedures, any appointment issues, but there's nothing that we need to bring to your attention. It was very seamless, and Belinda and Melanie did a fantastic job getting us everything we needed to complete our audit work. Okay, so we can keep on, control deficiencies. So as auditors, we do have to let you know as council if there's anything that meets the definition of a significant control deficiency, meaning it would impact the financial reporting process. Nothing that we need to bring to your attention. We do primarily use substantive procedures to complete the audit, but nonetheless do have to look at controls as we're going through the various stages of the audit. And then there's just some information on audit quality if you want to go take a look for the firm as a whole. And then I think the next slide just has to do with independence. So it's fairly easy for us to be able to satisfy ourselves on independence because we just do the audit. We don't do any additional non-audit type of work. Any accounting adjustments that we work through with Belinda and the performance of the audit is all based on documentation that she provides us. And so there's no concerns with respect to our independence. The appendices, just a few things we're required to communicate to you. So number one, just a copy of our engagement letter. If you do want a full copy of the engagement letter, it is available. So you can take a look at that. And then maybe if we just move to Appendix B, I think it's very small, I know, but this is just the proposed auditor's report. So that important paragraph does indicate that the statements are prepared in accordance with the public sector accounting standards. We're proposing to issue an unqualified or clean audit opinion on these statements. They have the breakdown of management's responsibilities and auditor's responsibilities, and assuming that council approves the statements, we'll date them as of May 12th. I think the report that you might have had said May 5th. I had made a mistake. I thought your council meeting was last week, not this week. So we'll date them as of the 12th, assuming you're good to go today. There's some regulatory communications that's more relevant to our public company audit clients, not so much municipal audit clients. And then there's the management representation letter, which is, you know, that we had everything we needed to do our work when we asked questions, we got the right information, all of that kind of fun stuff. And Belinda has already signed this for us for our files. Okay, so now on to the fun stuff, the numbers, not so much the audit. So if you want to follow along, please do also look at the draft financial statements. It's the same information in there. So a few things to note. So these are the December 31st, 2024 financial results. So what you're seeing in front of you is a snapshot of the assets owned and liabilities owed as of the year-end date. So a few things just to note. So your cash balance is down from 1.5 million to 700,000 as of the end of the year. I would say that that would have been completely expected. However, at the end of the prior year, you had a significant amount of deferred revenue that was not yet spent that you had planned to use on a number of your capital projects throughout the 2024 year end. So yes, you have the cash in your bank account at the end of the prior year. It allowed you to help fund those capital projects that were ongoing. And that's because your capital additions were about $1.2 million. That exceeded your current year operating cash flows, which were $400,000. Your accounts receivable Accounts receivable is down, is up a bit as of the end of the year. So you did have some additional receivables for some of your capital projects. And also, capital projects equals a larger HST rebate, which sits in receivables until you receive that cash from CRA. Your taxes receivables are down a bit, and I'll walk you through on the next slide what that looks like as a percentage of your tax levy. So on the next slide, you can see that your total, your total taxes receivable are down to about 105,000. So that's about 10.7% of your total tax levy. So definitely trending in the right direction. You can see that, yes, there has been a slight increase in your current year taxes receivable. 1 year arrears is down, and your prior years is up just slightly. I would say, as I always do, it's like anything in life, the older the amounts are, the less likely they are to collect. So making sure as much as possible to get those collection plans in place, to collect on some of those funds as much as you can. So switching over to the next part, which is the financial liabilities. So your accounts payable and accrued liabilities is up as of the end of the year. Again, no surprise, when you do a lot of capital work throughout the year, you know, you're seeing those additional invoices for the kind of fall work in payables as of the end of the year. So that wouldn't be a surprise there. Deferred revenue in its totality has decreased in 2024 as a result of the planned ongoing capital work. So the prior year did include some unused NORDS funding of about 123,000. That was fully utilized in 2024. And there was additional OSIF funding that was deferred and also was utilized in the year, along with some OTF community building funding. So I mean, the really good thing to see was how much of your capital was funded by your grants that you were able to have access to. The municipal world has this fun little thing called obligatory reserve funds, and that's where your gas tax, federal gas tax sits. Those funds were fully utilized for your capital projects in the year. And then finally, you have your asset retirement obligation. So you may remember from last year, that was the really big change in the prior year. That was the new standard coming online. So you did see a bit of an increase in the current year because of the inflationary adjustments. It just costs more to do anything. And so we did have that inflationary increase there in the year. I did want to note before we go to the next slide though is still the way to look at these statements, and when I'm kind of looking at what's the overall health of the municipality, you can see that you're still in a net financial asset situation. So $685,000 of net financial assets. So always think of that in terms of if you needed to settle every obligation you had as of the year-end date, you'd still have $685,000 to the good after settling every debt that the township owed. So that's, in my mind, that's a good feeling to have, to know that you're able to settle those amounts. Keep in mind, you haven't taken on debt. Most municipalities are needing to take on debt to be able to do some of the work that they're doing. You've been able to satisfy the obligations for capital with your capital grants. So I just point that out, a bit of a pat on the back, I think, to everybody, because not every municipality in Northern Ontario is as fortunate as this. On to the next slide. This is just the non-financial assets. So remember, these are the ones you're not going to sell. You're not going to sell your streets or your buildings, right? These are sunk costs for the municipality. So you did spend about $1.2 million on capital additions in the year, and that's offset by amortization expense of about $345,000. I'm sure I don't need to remind all of you what you spent everything on, but on the next page, just kind of highlighted, it's a lot of road work. Sand Bay, Old Narren Road, McDonald Street rehabilitation work, some work on the water treatment plant, ball field fencing, had a new server for the office. So as soon as you get started on some road work, doesn't take very long to spend $1 million in a year, that's for sure. So moving over to the next part, which is the statement of operations. So all of your transactions from January 1st of 2024 to December 31st. So, I would say just please remember that there's always a bit of a mismatch here, and this is one of the things that I don't love about public sector accounting standards. But you have a whole ton of capital grants that sit in revenue that you use to fund capital purchases that are not on these statements. So please don't, I'll reconcile the surplus for you like I always do. Don't be thinking you have 440,000 to use for next year, because you don't, I'll tell you that already. That's just what happens in years where you're investing in capital assets. So your total revenue was up about 24%, or about 440,000 in the year. That was entirely in relation to your grants. So your Province of Ontario capital grants were up because of the ongoing capital work. So McDonald Road project was the Nords funding. You use the OSIF funding for capital projects. You use the Ontario Trillium Foundation. You have ICIP Green Stream funding for your capital grants. So $442,000 of capital grants that you had in these financial statements to fund those capital purchases in the year. The remainder of your provincial grants is your OMPF funding. Everybody gets that, and you can use it on whatever you want to operate the township. All those other amounts though, Nords, OSIF, Ontario Trillium, you have to use it on what they tell you you can use it on, or otherwise you're not allowed to take it into revenue. Federal grants have decreased, and the reason for that is that particular funding stream was the ICIP grants for a lot of the road work you were doing on Old Narren Road. And so there wasn't just as much spending in that particular funded project, so that was down in the year. Your user fees, those are pretty comparable, only a small little change in the year. Your other income, there was some additional building permit revenue in the prior year. So as a result, that's why you're seeing the decrease there. Penalties, interest, investment income, pretty comparable on a year-over-year basis, but you can see the difference of having $1 million in the bank, and that's almost $30,000 of interest income that you were able to generate in the year. So that's good to see. So if revenues are up, expenses are going to be up. That's just life in the not-for-profit world. So expenses were up about 120,000 or 7% on a year-over-year basis. But please do keep in mind that, I always do an analysis to say what percentage is your revenue of expenses. So revenue as a percentage of your expenses in 2024 was only 80%. And that goes to show you how much of your spending was on capital in the year. Last year, your total revenue was 93.3%. And that's because of the McDonald Road and Old Narren Road projects and that grant funding. So what did you spend it on in the year? So general government expenses were up, some additional bad debts that you had on taxes, your taxes receivable in the year. Asset management planning was completed also in 2024. And then, like I said, just your taxation write-offs. Protection to persons and property, that is down, just a decrease in your maintenance and equipment costs for the fire hall in the current year. Transportation services is down slightly. It's just a bit of a decrease in your fuel and maintenance costs in the year. Environmental services is pretty, I would say it's down just a little bit. Amortization costs were way down, but then your OPWA expenses were up in the year. Your health services, that is up just a little bit. So you did have additional costs for your ambulance services as well as your health unit costs in the year. Recreation and cultural services is up as well. And that's just some additional repairs and maintenance expenses, additional amortization expense because you've had some additional capital spending in that area as well. And your planning and development is pretty comparable on a year-over-year basis. So I think on the next slide, I always just try and, the departments are great, but sometimes it's nice to see, well, what you actually spend the money on? And I've given you a few years here so you can see, I like the last one there is your amortization. And so that is telling you that you have been investing in the capital for the township. So that's all your road work. That's all the capital that you have been investing on. That's why amortization trends upward in that trend as you would expect. Your wages and benefits are trending upwards as you would expect as well, you know, with any cost of living increases and those kind of things. You can see also in your materials, I would say that you've been doing a lot of capital work over the last number of years. Sometimes there can be gray areas. Is it repairs? Is it maintenance? Is it an actual capital addition? So that's why you see those amounts fluctuating, when you're, you know, it just depends on what you're spending the money on. So I think this next slide is the one that you'd likely want to see and what Belinda had asked me about in setting the 2025 budget. So you do remember, at the end of last year, you did have a bit of an operating surplus from the prior year that I believe you had utilized as a starting point for your 2024 budget. So when you approve to use a portion of your previous year's surpluses, you're always going to end up in this situation and have a current year deficit because that's the only way you can draw down on those prior years' accumulated surpluses. So it ended up that you, as the township, had to fund $230,000 of capital and other items via your reserves that have been accumulated over the years. But what I want to make sure everybody understands is if we go in 2 slides from now, you still have $66,000, almost $67,000 of accumulated surpluses at the start of 2025 to utilize for your 2025 budget for starting purposes. And in addition to that very general can use on anything reserve, you have $625,000 of reserves that have been set aside by council for purposes such as working capital, water, contingencies, roads, things like that. So your total accumulated surplus at the end of the year is just over $7.1 million. And I always give the reminder, right? 6.4 of that is already spent in your capital. We're not going to tear up the roads and try and sell it. So you have an additional $700,000 and change to be able to utilize for those go forward purposes. So a lot of grants now are saying that's great, municipalities, you know, you kick in 10%. Well, these funds that you've accumulated allow you to have the flexibility to be able to do those kind of things. So that's 2024 in a nutshell. And Belinda, if I missed anything or if you want to clarify, please add in.
The only thing I wanted to clarify is we're still ongoing with our asset management plans. So we did half last year and half this year. We are planning on making the July 1st deadline, hopefully, fingers crossed. But yeah, so that's just a little, that's the only project that's kind of still ongoing.
Perfect.
Yeah. So we used 230,000 approximately of previous grants,
Yes.
basically. We knew that. And we have now approximately in our reserves about 700,000.
Yes.
And I think previously we were at about 900,000 or over 900,000.
Close to that, yeah.
Yeah.
We did a big drawdown just to fund
Sand Bay.
the overages in Sand Bay.
Yeah, from what I can see from looking in your budget, you were right on what you had been expecting to draw down from your, that was the starting point in your 2024 budget. It aligned bang on.
So kudos to you for managing this really well.
Thank you. We all know. Well, kudos to Tiffany for making it understandable. Well, does anyone else have any questions, clarification? Thank you
Yeah.
so much for coming
problem.
and giving us relatively good news and encouraging us to make good decisions as we proceed through budget even today. This is first by Wayne Austin, seconded by Councillor McVeigh, Councillor Austin as well, sorry. Be it resolved that the consolidated financial statements for the corporation of the township of Narren for the year ending December 31st, 2024, be presented to council on May 12th, 2025, be accepted as presented. All in favor? That's carried. You.
Okay,
Thank you.
So we'll get the final financial information return filed and then whoop, we'll be good for another year.
Awesome.
All right, so
Starts
thank you.
again. Thank you.
You were not in a long. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Haven't had a chance. Session. Oh, should we just pause for a second then? Sure. There's some. So moved by Counselor McVeigh, seconded by Counselor Austin, be it resolved that the following council minutes be accepted as presented. A, regular council meeting minutes of April 14th, 2025, and B, closed session meeting minutes of April 14th, 2025. All in favor? That's carried. Moved by Counselor Austin, second by Counselor McVeigh, be it resolved that the minutes and reports, items 7A to J are noted as received. All in favor? That's carried. Should some discussion on that first report, when we pass the motion on it. KPMG?
No, oh, sorry, we've already accepted those
Yeah.
two, so
The financial statement, that doesn't.
we accepted that one already, we're on to the Good Food Market.
Okay, yeah, so let's talk about the Good Food Market. Basically, it was a market that came, I don't know if it came all the way to early fall. It would, people liked it. It would come once a week for a few hours. But now they are asking us for $2,500 to support it. So who would like to start the discussion?
I'll just say no, thank you.
Yes, I say no, thank you.
Cause I did attend it twice when they were here. And I was the only person. And I just went to see what they were doing.
Yeah.
I stopped to be nosy.
There were a fair, I mean, I came several times and.
Yeah, the minutes I was here, there was no, so yeah. I just seen the van pull outside and all the stuff and I went, "Hey."
It's happening. Counselor Richter?
I'd say no too.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, okay.
So we need a first and second.
Who would like to first that? And Counselor McDonald, you're gonna do it. Okay, so moved by Counselor McVeigh, seconded by Counselor McDonald, be it resolved that council receives the CAO's report 2025-15 entitled 2025 Good Food Market Request for Municipal Contribution for information, and further that council declines a municipal contribution of $2,500 to support the operation of the 2025 Good Food Market. All in favor? That's carried. So next we have our public service announcement campaign. I believe you saw the posters online regarding vandalism and cleaning up after your pet. CEO Ketchabot, do you want to speak to the pet cleanup portion and what's happening?
Sure, through you, Madam Chair. So as is noted in the report, we had discussions with other municipalities. It seems everyone is dealing with a lot of the same problems. We had initially reached out because of the beach vandalism and we're looking for ideas that worked. While we were doing that, we also heard from other municipalities that are also having problems with people cleaning up after their pet. And now that we've added the dog park, we're also seeing, last year, everyone was really great about picking up after their pet. This year, we're already seeing problems. And it's literally only been open for 2 weeks. So we thought we would include in our PSA campaign some posters about reminding people just to care about your community and clean up after your pet. It obviously is probably just a few people that aren't doing it, but we just like to put a reminder out there.
Yeah, I thought the posters were great. What did you think? Yes, we like the posters. This is at a time when we could discuss the beach as well. So we had discussed other things previously. But I think I don't want to put words in your mouth, but as you reached out to other municipalities about the vandalism, there weren't any easy, quick solution or effective solutions.
Yeah, if you'd like me to speak on it, yeah, through you, Madam Chair. Yes, a lot of other smaller municipalities are, well, everyone's facing this problem with their beaches. The bigger municipalities do have a bit more visibility in where their beaches are located. They have more staff that are doing patrols. They hire police presence and bylaw presence than we do. The nice thing about our beach is it's tucked away. The bad thing about our beach is it's tucked away. So, it is a challenge to get bylaw to go down there, especially when the vandalism is usually happening at night or actually later in the fall season when residents are not going down there as much. So we've tried to definitely come up with some strategies, and I mean, this is a work in progress. So what other people are saying is if you can appeal to people's pride in their community, that's where they're finding the most effective management of this. Obviously, we're open to more ideas, but this is the first step.
Yeah, I think the posters were great, that if you see it, report it kind of thing. I think we also know that most people know they could reach out to us as council if they don't want to make the phone call. And I don't know, somehow the word is getting out I think they've just been down to the beach and they've seen the vandalism and people are getting concerned. It helps that we kind of know when it is happening. So I'm kind of hoping that people will let us know. Now renting the porta potty, I think it was decided that we weren't gonna rent, that the door would be fixed, so that issue is resolved. We know to reach out to the OPP and I guess we would reach out to bylaw.
Yeah, I was kind of just waiting until the beach season kind of started, just so we're not wasting their time now, but if we are seeing acts of vandalism, I can certainly say, okay, let's step this up a little bit earlier in the season.
It's gonna be mosquito season soon.
You're gonna cover up. No, I wondered about, well, does anyone have any other ideas of what we might do to help with vandalism? Any magic
I
solution?
don't know about the vandalism, but I was mentioning to Belinda, we do not know what they're gonna put in that area for a road when they do the fish sanctuary. And that's gonna be close to the beach. So maybe
We should reach out
we
to,
should reach out to the contractor that's doing it, and maybe he can put a little extra into the road for parking down there or something.
I mean, there have been lots of debate about whether people should be able to go down below or stay up. We're all there lots of times where everybody's very civilized and there's lots of vehicles down there. So it's not necessarily that you're driving a vehicle. I wondered about, posting that it's closed at night. So if the police are coming to check, then, they know at nightfall they shouldn't be there. And it gives them kind of some leverage to say, you don't need to be here. So I don't know that people are destroying property without nightfall.
No, the big thing is they make fires on the beach, they make fires up You seen there just recently, right up by the outhouse. There's a fire in the middle of the road,
I didn't see that.
and they got any 4x4 can drive down there where we blocked it off means nothing.
Yeah,
They just go around.
Yeah, so any interest in, passing, can we, it's not actually our priority, our property, can we pass a bylaw saying that no one's allowed access after sunset or even nightfall?
that's a good question. I don't know legally if we can.
Fine, that'll just be a waste of money and signage. You drive through Espinal, every one of their parks is a big sign, nobody allowed here at night. We'll drive past there at dusk or at midnight, there's people in there. The police are not stopping. They don't wanna be bothered with it either. They're not gonna go unless they get a call of a complaint. Who's gonna call and complain down there? And if they do, then they'll go there. Like,
I don't know if the police go to the beach and it's at night, even if, unless they're having a hard time getting the fire out, it's pretty easy to hide what you're doing, right?
so the sign isn't gonna change anything.
Well, I'm just saying, if you go down there and you're not supposed to be at the beach and it's sundown, then the police can say you need to leave. I mean, you could argue that they might just come right back. That's what I'm thinking. Otherwise, the police are gonna go down, check if everything's fine, or from what they see is fine. It's not illegal to be on the beach at night unless we say it is.
Beaches in our land, it's public land if they're on
Well, it's not.
within the high water mark and you can't do a thing. If you own a camp, somebody can camp right on your beach and you can't say a thing because it's public land.
You know, you at a camp, they can come in.
Yep, you don't own the beach. They up past the high water mark, it's crown land.
Well, I don't know.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other ideas? I mean, the only other thing that could be a camera. And there have been different locations discussed, so I think if you put something right at the beach, they're gonna be looking for it, they're gonna probably find it. I mean, they've stolen signs there. I think they've shot at them. I mean, that's a whole nother set of issues.
I think just asking the OPP to make a pass down there during their evening route. If they go down there just around dusk or whatever, it will make a big difference. Or even come during the afternoon, just a quick drive around, it only takes them a couple minutes.
All right, do we need a motion for anything or?
No, I'm bringing it up for the police board.
You're taking it to the. So anything other than, are you fine with the rollout campaign? Like with the posters? But no to the camera, no to, making it illegal at night.
I think you'd lose the camera in record time.
Well, I manage the two for the Snowmobile Club at 2 warm-up shacks. And, this is gonna sound rude, it's a major pain in the arse. Cause my phone dings all night long, I turn it off, but I just go look, and 9 times out of 10, I can tell that it's your coat. I can't tell who you are, so then you're gonna have to go looking and do it like. And the cameras were $350 a piece. It was an additional $250 for each camera for the year.
For the year?
So you need another $500 to your budget every year. So you gotta wanna spend $1,500 plus $500 a year and then find somebody who wants to monitor that. I don't think Belinda wants it on her phone. I know I don't want another one on my phone, but I have enough. Counselor McDonald might love that. Go look at this.
Somebody did recommend that, you know, it's the road going in, everybody has to take that same road. So that was a good point, that. And that's a big area,
And I think as soon as you, you put those up, you gotta say that you're under surveillance. Cause I know we had to for the snowmobile club. And then when you do that, I do catch people sometimes like.
Okay.
They see like 4 people pointing where they finally seen it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's, like. As soon as you say that, you're under surveillance. People's gonna start looking, then somebody's gonna find it. Then you're gonna be missing a camera too. If somebody does have a set of spike climbers or whatever, like we use a hydro guy to climb the pole, to climb the trees, to bury them. But everybody, you have probably a couple sets in your garage. You know, if somebody wants it, they can climb it.
or a Pelican,
Or a pellet gun, yeah.
yeah.
Then you're at a $300 camera either way.
Okay, moved by Council McVeigh, seconded by Councilor Austin, be it resolved that council receives the CAO's report 2025-19 regarding the public service announcement campaign, and further that council directs staff to proceed with the development and role of the campaign to discourage vandalism and promote responsible pet ownership within the township. All in favor? That's carried. Oh, next we have mailing out our water bills early because of a Canada Post strike. Any questions about that?
Go ahead and do it.
Yeah, okay, moved by Councilor Austin, second by Councilor McVeigh. Be it resolved that council receives the CAO report 2025-20 regarding the early mail out of June water bills, and further that council directs staff to proceed with early preparation and mail out of the second quarter water bills due to the possibility of a Canada Post service disruption. All in favor? That's carried. Moved by Councilor Austin, second by Councilor McVeigh, be it resolved that council receives the CAO's report 2025-21 entitled High Speed Internet Project Update for information. All in favor? That's carried. And do we need to talk about that? Maybe, I mean, it is exciting. So high-speed internet will be provided to so many residents of Nairn and Wabagish, but it is also going up to Sand Bay as well. So that's progress that we're not paying for, so we like it.
I read it for the just, is it doing Birch Street and
That's a good question.
Dumont Street?
Yeah, I know it's going through there, but Birch Street is a good question. I could ask them. Okay, so next we have McDonald Street asphalt cracking. Any questions about that? Basically it cracked. They said there wasn't anything wrong with the road construction. They will not charge us for labor, but it would take 2,200 to fix it. Yeah, any questions? You
Well-
look like I'm speaking Greek.
Well, no, we're all kind of confused probably. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, if it's cracked already, brand new road, the company should be responsible to.
Well. They did cite that there have been compaction tests and lab testing. And the company says that we had so many freeze thaw cycles in this past winter that it was hard on roads. I would love it if they would pay for it.
It's funny, how many years was that road there? We didn't have the cracks like we have now, before they fixed it.
That was our argument. And I don't think the ceiling that they're talking about is gonna be that fantastic. I don't know a ton about roads, but I'm, you know, it seems like we're just
I
patching.
think we just have to look at a lot of consideration when we put out another contract for other roads.
Well, remember the price was 1.8 million, right, at one point? And we were like, how do we, cause it's not even all of McDonald Street. Right? That's good.
But on this though, I don't know how we don't spend the 22, even though I don't want to. I don't know how we don't spend it, because if the rain, like next year, this is just gonna pop more.
Yeah,
The
it
fall,
has to
we
be
get,
fixed.
fall, we get the rain, it's coming. Like, it's just gonna wreck more of that road that we just spent $800,000.
Yeah, and just a fun fact for you, Madam Chair, there's actually municipalities that keep track of the thaw freeze cycles. City of Sudbury is one of them. And I read an article that they put out that there was 13 more freeze thaw cycles in the 2024-2025 winter than there was in previous years. And so they've been citing, and not just that city, all cities have been stating that any road work that was done last year, they're seeing cracking and a huge increase in potholes. Mind you, City of Sudbury has always been bad for that.
Yeah.
But just, I thought it was interesting that they keep track of that cycle as part of their public works.
That is interesting. Are we all agreed that we need to pay the 2,200? We do not like this, but that's what we have to do, right? Okay, I'm going to read this very lengthy motion. Moved by Counselor McVeigh, seconded by Counselor Austin, whereas council has received the report 2025-22 titled McDonald Street Asphalt Cracking Remediation Recommendation for Information. And whereas the council has reviewed engineering correspondence regarding asphalt cracking on McDonald Street. And whereas GIP has confirmed that the issue is not related to workmanship and has provided a quotation to complete crack sealing at cost without contractor markup. And whereas staff has recommended proceeding with the proposed crack sealing work at a cost of $2,200 with funds to be allocated in the 2025 draft municipal budget. Now therefore be it resolved that council authorize staff to proceed with the crack sealing on McDonald Street as quoted by GIP at a cost of $2,200 and that the expense be reflected in the 2025 draft budget. All in favor? Carried. Okay, next we have our technical, Agnew Lake technical documentation and the quote that they gave us, for it to be reviewed is 11,700. How would you like to talk about it, discuss it? Counselor McVeigh, you look like you have something to say.
Nope. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, I don't
I
like it.
don't know what else to say.
I don't like it, but,
Thought they made it sound like it was gonna be extremely affordable when they were.
oh, I don't know. Did they I would like
I don't know,
to
I-
call them on that, but.
No, no, I just, I don't know, I didn't get an 11,000, oh, it was, let's just say $12,000 feeling. I had it like a 3-year. I figured, can't do nothing for $3,000, can't fill cracks on a road for $2,200, so $3,000, I'm way off.
Counselor Richter?
Fees for professional services are going through the roof everywhere. And they can charge whatever they want, so 12 grand is almost reasonable.
Yes. Counselor Austin?
Well, we have the ministry coming in to do water samples. And that isn't gonna cost us money, and how much more this other outfit is gonna do to remediate what's there. I think it's too much money for.
They're not remediating anything. We had a meeting with the Minister of Mines and the MTO. So, and they had answers to our questions that we had asked in September. But I mean, it was a huge binder. And I can follow it. I can read it and understand kind of what the point is. But I'm not a scientist, so I don't know if 900 barium is a bad thing, right? Like, so, and they probably were aware of that they're giving us a ton of information of heavy, complex, scientific laden information. And how do we sort through it to figure out what they're really doing? CEO Ketchaba, would you like to speak to this?
Yeah, I second what you just said. I would feel much more confident if Hutchinson did review what they, do I like the price tag? Absolutely
No.
not. But it literally is a binder this big. And like you said, you can follow a lot of it, but a lot of the scientific, and chemistry data is Greek to me. And they could say that, yes, that's acceptable, that's great. You know, they could say the sky is green, and by looking at that chemistry report, I wouldn't know if that was right or wrong. So that's just where I don't feel comfortable. Do I want to spend that kind of money? Would I rather be spending it somewhere else? Absolutely.
I think a good example is when we were looking at previous answers and Hutchinson was speaking with CAO Ketchup and I. And, you know, even something as simple as them saying, oh, look, we're putting in 10 more wells up at the site so we can test more. And the scientist woman, the consultant, she was like, well, you can put wells wherever you want and it looks like you're testing, but there are certain spots where they're effective and where they're not. So that's something they're gonna know and we would never know. Even our science-based people in town, unless you have experience with uranium tailings, like a tailings, you're not gonna catch kind of, and that's kind of how I feel when I'm dealing with the Minister of Mines, like, for example, and maybe I'm misspeaking, but remember in our report, they kept saying if you spend time up in that area, you have to spend 922 hours before you're over the limit. Well, in this new report, there was a little sentence after that clarifies that they've averaged it for the whole area. So they've taken the exposure for the entire area and we know there's hot spots. And it is conceivable that somebody could go stand in one of those wrong spots and then it's not 922 hours, right? So it's these funny little things that you're just like, this makes me suspicious. It doesn't add up.
And is there a manipulation of the data too?
And this consultant wouldn't have the experience to be able to say to us, this is a little sketchy, or this could be strengthened, or.
They've given us a report and they kind of have questions like, you know, why did the CNSC say that this site was approved when there are these leakages past the dam? So they give us questions and they coach us kind of on how to deal with it. And if I'm completely honest, a lot of time the ministries we're dealing with tend to just kind of sidestep the questions, right? We're not getting real. Counselor McVeigh?
On this $11,700 bill, if we approved it, is there any deferring some of these costs to the other municipalities that are in the same issue as us? Right
We did
here,
receive a total amount of, I think, 8,500 previously.
but we spent that, right?
Well, we spent 6,000 on the last report. And we went to Roma, which I don't think we spent a ton on Roma, but it still is hotel and, so we could go to them and ask, you're right. We're kind of under the gun time wise as well.
Yeah, so when we had that last meeting with the ministry, they said conceivably they could start shipping the product here as soon as what, August?
Was it 7 weeks after June? Something was happening in June or?
I'm not sure, but August is sticking in
Yeah.
mind. So we don't have a ton of time to put out.
And at the end of this, what will this report give us to be able to say to who and to what?
I think you're making a great point that we might know everything and completely understand. It may not make a difference. It may mean that they're still going to bring it.
That's right, like we spend $12,000. And then at the end, we show that report to Northern Mines or MTO. And they go, yeah, thanks. Then they move along. And we're out 12 grand.
But can we ask for additional remediation or
They are doing lots of stuff
Yeah.
on site. They are doing everything to kind of smooth this over.
They want it done. They're making it happen, as far as, we all hate saying it, but let's be honest.
I think another
7 weeks,
option,
it's gonna be
if
moving.
it's
Like-
CAO Ketchubas.
yeah, I think another option too is maybe there's one report or two reports in here, maybe a lot of this. I mean, a lot of these are old reports, goes back to 2011, 2015, 12, 2012. Maybe there's just a couple reports that we want them to take a look at, and we could just say, you know, maybe take a look at the ecometrics risk assessment that was done in 2024, and just say, can you give us a cost for just that one?
Yes.
So
okay.
that's an option too, we could consider if you think that this price tag is too big. Maybe that's another option.
It's just me personally, I think it's.
It is a lot. You're not, yeah, it is a lot. But let's be clear too, we would basically be using this information to kind of give it to the public where they are choosing. Either they're saying, don't worry about it, bring it in, we don't care. But that's not really what we're hearing from people. People are saying, we don't want any more. We already know years ago, it killed all of the fish in John Creek and, you know, the existing mine was already damaging enough. Do we really want to bring in more? So basically, this information just gives us the science. I mean, the media loves it. They want to know more. They want us to figure it out, call us, you know? So it's kind of, we just, yeah, it's kind of arming ourselves.
Well, I'd be for, see if you want to go back and see about looking at one or two reports at a much cheaper price. I personally don't want to spend 11,007. We're gonna look at budgets and we're gonna nickel and dime ourselves to death here. But we're gonna,
So if we go back and we talk to them and we wait till the next meeting, that's June.
Or you could give me a budget to work with them and say, you know,
This is what we
which one
approved.
do you think is the most poignant in moving forward? I don't know if they would want to give me that information because they want us to spend that amount, but. Like, I'm kind of interested in the two ecometrics, the one in 2024. I read the water report and it didn't tell me anything new. But the ecometrics, I'm probably saying it improperly, the one that was done in 2024 and then the one that was done in 2015 at the niobium waste site. Maybe that's what we should look at, because we know Hutchison has already looked at all these Ministry of Mines annual reports, because that's what we brought forward to the CNSC Commission was that information. So maybe we could just say, hey, just look at these two, or if there's other ones on that list that we think are important. Well, they're all important, but
Yeah, so is there a certain amount of money you want to limit it to that?
This is a shared cost.
Not at this point. We could go, I think, especially to Baldwin, but also Sauble Spanish River does have residents right on Agnew Lake.
yeah, we have to remember too, though, like a lot of the municipalities have passed their budgets. We're probably one of the last ones, but
Yeah,
that is an issue too.
If it was half of that amount and shared between us, I could say yes.
Yeah.
But for that amount,
what if we say if it's just us, we do 4,000, does that seem crazy? And then if it's a shared expense, we do 6?
I just wanna say, if you wanna have an expert on our side, an expert who understands this stuff, cause we don't. That's what we're gonna have to pay if you wanna have an outside opinion. That's on our side.
And just to be clear, this is included in that draft budget, the full amount. So just so that's clear.
I mean, if you want them to look at, part of the plan and not the whole thing. Personally, I'm thinking if you want, this is a big issue and we don't have the expertise to deal with it. But if you got an expert who understands it and can talk to us about it and say, here's some areas of weakness. Because if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen, but at least we can shore up what we need to with the right advice. So
So you're for the full amount that's already in the budget. It's a lot of money, you're not wrong, but how are you feeling? Trevor has said how he feels.
I think it's too much money to go.
Are you okay with 6,000 if we share expenses and
If we get share.
4,000
Yes.
if it's us on our own?
Well, we need shared expenses. I mean, the other municipalities gotta come up to the same as we do. They're involved in it, and they have been all along.
Yeah. That might slow us down though, just so you know, we might have to wait till their next council meetings as well, so that could be a little bit of a
what if
roadblock.
we go for the full amount and you will see if you can get any shared participation? I'm just saying, if we don't have an expert on our side, we've got no ammunition to throw back at them.
Well, in reality, they're not doing anything illegal.
But-
So
Then it's gonna happen, and why do we need the consultant?
well, maybe the real thing that will stop this is public outcry and support of First Nations. So we have some small support from First Nations, but that has changed. We originally had more. So, I mean, you're right. We could just have a town hall meeting and
It's happening.
oh, no, we're not, we could say, do you want this to happen? We don't have to.
Yeah.
But I just don't know who's gonna communicate these reports to them. Is it gonna be me? Like, no, you're. Yeah, without the scientific interpretation, the reports are not very useful for us. So they've answered questions, but I don't know, honestly, the report that we paid $6,000 for with, the water study, it already showed leakage. But I think then they used that same information to try to say that that was naturally occurring minerals in the water in our last meeting, and I was like, so.
They're gonna spin it the way they want.
Yeah, they might, like, we might have a scientist saying this is contaminating the water. And the Minister of Mines might say, no, it's naturally occurring. It's always been there. There's gonna be uranium because you have uranium. So. I am leaning, I would like to have a scientific report. I don't wanna pay 12,000, but I'm willing to do it. You did a good job with getting it in the budget. Good job. But do we have some kind of consensus here?
We're in a bind if we don't take it,
Yeah,
because we started something and we're fighting to get it, and if you stop in the middle, you're kind of look
I
silly.
think if we pay for it and we go to the, I truly believe the other councils will step up. All three were here, all three.
Yeah, I don't know that Espanola is as invested, but they're just downriver. They're not on the lake.
But they're still,
They have been at a
they push
lot of
good,
meetings.
they push good intentions and we
Yeah.
can remind them of that.
Well, Massey is on the river,
Yeah,
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
so Espanolas.
yeah.
I mean, we might just get the same distance ahead by having a rowdy town hall and serving pizza. I mean,
Donuts.
yeah, for a lot of donuts.
Espanola has a lot of people drawing from wells
And or they got camps, and they got stuff, you know what I mean, like it's.
Hmm.
in the Blue Sea area, they're all drawing.
Well, actually, well water is cleaner than river water.
Well, you're right next to the river, so.
It's only as clean as the water you're drawing from.
Okay, how would you like to proceed? well, we could just go around. Counselor McDonald, what would you like to see happen?
I like to see them out there all together, but. But, we have to make some kind of move, to do something about it. But I'm not sure what it is.
Okay, Counselor,
Getting a consultant in and see what it's gonna cost.
yeah,
I
Counselor,
don't like it, but I think we have to go ahead
with the full amount?
and ask that other municipalities take it.
I agree with that.
Okay, Counselor Richter.
I think we need a strong voice that can explain things. I'm saying go for it, and if we can negotiate the other people to back us in, that would be wonderful.
And Counselor McVeigh,
I'm okay with that.
all right, we'll go for it.
Say none of us like it, but we're in a bind.
No, we don't like it. Well, because we know that finances matter, but drinking water does too.
Yep. No, that, Fallen. If they wanna push it through, they're gonna push it through.
They really might.
Unfortunately, we're spending money that.
They spend a lot of
Could be
money.
used for other things.
Yeah,
I
and they're,
know, I
and they're
understand.
they're gonna do it if they wanna do it. We already have that feeling,
They never moved anything out from last year.
and they haven't stopped, so they aren't looking back, they're still looking forward.
So while we're on this subject, are we interested in having a town hall before we get this information? Because right now the public doesn't even know that we've gotten answers. I don't know. I just know a lot of people ask me and I give the update, but I kind of think, well, obviously everyone would like to know. A lot of us have been waiting for answers for
If
months.
you have something to give them, yes, a public meeting would
Yeah,
be.
but we gotta have something.
So wait till we get the answers. Okay, moved by Counselor Austin, second by Counselor McVeigh, whereas council has received the report 2025-23 titled Review of Technical Documentation, Agnew Lake Tailings Management Area and Niobium Relocation Project for information, and now therefore be it resolved that council authorize staff to engage Hutchinson Environmental Sciences Limited to complete a review of the technical documentation received from the Ministry of Mines and the Energy, Ministry of Mines and Energy and the Ministry of Transportation related to the Agnew Lake Tailings Management Area and the proposed niobium tailings relocation project. And further that the quoted cost of $11,700 plus HST be approved so that the review can proceed and be used to form the township's formal response to the ministries, and that council directs the CAO to request financial support for the cost from the other La Cloche municipalities. All in favor? That's carried. And then we have the superintendent's report to council. Any questions or? Yeah, any questions? I thought it was interesting that he noted that we might be having issues with our lighting soon. I thought that was interesting. Moved by Counselor McVeigh, seconded by Counselor Austin. Be it resolved that council accepts the municipal superintendent's report to council dated May 6, 2025, as presented. All in favor? That's carried. And then we have the fire chief's report that, I think we discussed last month. It was just the question of how often the fire chief should submit a report to council. And, I think he wanted to leave it so that if we had an issue, we could reach out to him, or he could send a report if needed. And at this point, we receive a monthly report. But if there was nothing happening for a month and we don't receive a report, it's not a big deal.
I agree with that, there's nothing to report. I got all the faith in the role of the fire chief over there, the firefighters. And And you know, years ago, when council started interfering with their business, you went, "Nope." So I would work with the fire chief and the fire department. And if there's no report, they don't have no reports, why would you have to make a report?
Yeah, Counselor Richter?
I don't think I know enough about this, but it's a fair amount of the budget for Naren, and maybe no news is good news, and there's gotta be something going on all the time. I'm too new.
Counselor McVeigh, are you voting on this or did you declare a conflict?
I didn't, but, I was going to, I just, I did the other one, so. I'm not gonna say nothing, no, I'll add 7 days to be.
Oh, he's gonna add on. Yeah, I think the expectation that if we expect one monthly, but if there's nothing to report, that's fine too. That's still a lot of reports. Right?
How much is involved in the report?
We don't have any expectations. It can be it's really just writing it up and sending it in, I believe, a week in advance. But it could be, it's like writing a letter, right? You know, you're just kind of summarizing what's going on.
So when there's nothing to report, that means there's been no fires, there's been no usage of equipment, there's been no, how are we supposed to know how much the equipment's been used, or?
He doesn't generally report on incidents, really, right? It's
Only
really,
once a year he does an incident report, but it's just generally just general.
what's going on.
What's going on at the department, if they're doing particular types of training, or if there's anything that
Equipment
council should be aware of, yeah, like equipment issues, or he'll write that. I mean, I personally think, just as the CAO, like, continue the way we've been doing it. Like, expect it on a monthly basis, but if there's nothing really going on, then to miss a month here or there is fine with me, but that's just my recommendation.
Would you like to see it monthly? Counselor Richter, is that what you're saying?
Well. I don't know the business at all. I really don't. I'm just new here. But if it's just a matter of here's an update and everything's going really well, then it doesn't seem like an onerous task to do. But it keeps us apprised. I mean, because we can only talk to,
You're right, yeah, we can't go get a report ourselves.
no,
You're right.
so how would we know otherwise?
You wouldn't. Yeah. Okay, so am I hearing kind of keep things status quo? Yeah, I think so. So on a monthly basis.
And I don't think it's a matter of not having faith in the fire chief. It's just a matter of reporting. I mean, if we were all on a special committee doing some kind of work, we'd be expected to report back to the board. If it's just a letter.
So moved by Councilor Richter, seconded by Councilor McDonald, whereas council has received the fire chief's report dated April 8th, 2025, and be it resolved that council directs the fire chief continues to submit reports to council on a monthly basis. All in favor? No. Okay, well, it's carried. Next, we have a motion from Perry Sound about strong mayors, which I say it's about time. No, I don't. just for the record, a bunch of new municipalities, the mayors were giving a lot of different powers. I'm sure you've seen it in the news with, you know, mayors can fire CAOs and they can veto certain, you know. Anyway, is everyone okay with that? Which it wouldn't be us anyway. Do you want strong mayors or no to strong mayors?
I think we have a strong mayor.
It could be strong. Councilor McVeigh?
What population did they go to? What's the minimum
I
population?
think it was over 6 counselors. Is that how it went?
7, yeah, any council that had 7 or more automatically got it. It didn't even matter on the size of the
I
municipality.
don't think we should even be commenting.
We don't have to.
It doesn't affect us.
Yeah, they've just asked for our, support to reject strong mayors. That's what, Perry Sound has asked, but we don't have to.
No, I don't think we're gonna.
You say no to comment?
Don't care.
Yeah, it doesn't affect us.
Noted as received, and
Yep.
Okay,
that's my opinion anyway.
so we've already received it. Okay, right? So we don't need to do anything with that. Yeah, it doesn't affect us. We had a letter from the Honorable George Perry, who used to be Minister of Mines, and he is the new Minister of Northern Economic Development and Growth. Counselor Richter, can I get you to second a motion here to accept? I've just written your name in. It's just to accept letters, so. Moved by Counselor McVeigh, seconded by Counselor Richter. Be it resolved that for information only items, 11A, the Honorable George Perry about the appointment as new Minister of Northern Economic Development and Growth, and B, the Minister of Agriculture, Food, Agribusiness, about food safety and environmental policy branch. All in favor? That's carried. And why don't we take a little break before we hit drafts?